It's such a good time to be a gamer, especially a gamer that enjoys open world RPGs, because the list of amazing open world RPGs coming out within the next year is massive, and it's beautiful. So buckle up and let's dive in. First up, we have Exodus, developed by Archetype Entertainment. Having fled a dying Earth, humanity has found a new home in a hostile galaxy. Here, we are the underdogs, fighting our final battle for survival. You are the traveler, humanity's last hope. This game just sounds and looks epic from one end of it to the other, and it's even got Matthew McConaughey starring in the game, so it seems like they're really pulling out all of the stops for this one. The sci-fi nerd in me is super excited. It's being called Mass Effect's true successor, and really that's all I needed to hear to be on board for this massive open world game. It's being made by a team of developers who formerly worked at BioWare, and they say the goal is simple: to deliver the next generation of amazing sci-fi RPGs. In Exodus, there is only one chance to prevent extinction, and that's where you come in, a traveler. Interestingly, it says you'll even be able to use time dilation to your advantage or your detriment as you navigate the game's story. No release date on this one yet, sadly, but I can't wait to find out more. Next up, we have Crimson Desert. This one's made by Pearl Abyss, and it's coming to PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Crimson Desert is an upcoming open-world action-adventure game featuring non-linear gameplay. This is going to be a massive single-player game, and it's going to be gorgeous. The graphics really stand out on this one, and the combat looks to be satisfying as well. In the trailer, we can see mounted combat, explosions, and beautiful landscapes. You'll be able to pick up quests from the quest board and interact with tons of NPCs. The game just looks massive and incredibly promising. It looks like you can even fish, and perhaps most interestingly, you'll be able to ride a hot air balloon and tame wild horses. It looks like you'll face off against huge bosses and even be able to fly, and there's just so much going on in this game. I'm really excited to learn more about this one. If Pearl Abyss can deliver a complete and polished product, this looks like it'll be a great game to dive into. Next up, we have Dragon Age Dreadwolf, developed by BioWare for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, and this one is planned for the end of 2024. This is easily one of the games I'm most excited about right now. A full reveal is planned for the summer of 2024, which means we'll be getting it anytime now. Dragon Age Dreadwolf is an upcoming role-playing video game being developed by BioWare and being published by Electronic Arts. This is the fourth major game in the Dragon Age franchise, so Dreadwolf will be the sequel to Dragon Age Inquisition. This game feels like it has the potential to be one of BioWare's biggest games yet. The studio has been intentionally tight-lipped about the game so far, so as to not paint themselves into a corner, but what we do know looks amazing. The art looks gorgeous, the world looks fascinating, and I absolutely loved Dragon Age Inquisition and all of the banter between my companions. I'll never forget Bull and how much I loved having him out. Dragon Age Dreadwolf is going to be a single-player game built on the Frostbite engine. If you've never played Dragon Age Inquisition, it's 100% worth it to go back and play through it. If you love good RPGs, you'll love it, and since Dreadwolf is a sequel to that game, it's going to be incredibly handy to have played it. Interestingly, Dragon Age Dreadwolf was at one point being developed as a live service game, and not for a short while, for years of its development cycle. Fortunately, they reverted those changes and went back to making it a single-player game, and I'm 100% certain that this game is going to be all the better for it. All too often, live service really just means stripping away content that should have been there at launch and then drip feeding it to you for the sake of retention. Dragon Age Dreadwolf is coming out this year, and it's right up there at the top of my games to be excited for in 2024 list. Next up, we have Light No Fire, being dubbed the first truly open world game by its developer Hello Games. This game is slated for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, and they're hoping for a late 2024 release. If not, then we should be definitely seeing this one in 2025. Now, this is made by the same Hello Games that made No Man's Sky, a game which was received horribly at launch, but has since risen to massive fandom, thanks to the fact that Hello Games never gave up on it and worked on it until it was an amazing and loved game. The question is, will we see that story repeated with Light No Fire, or will this game launch in a much better state? Right now, it's already more than 5 years in development, and it's a game about adventure, building, survival, and exploring together, set on a fantasy planet the size of Earth. This planet is filled with beasts and tons of lore to discover. So yeah, it's multiplayer, you can ride dragons, and it's described as having in-depth RPG systems and the freedom of a survival sandbox game. Right now, they're describing the game as standing on 4 different pillars. First is going to be the multiplayer Earth. You can carve a life together, meet players from across the globe, build a life, explore and survive together, construct persistent buildings and communities, or strike it out alone to discover the world for others. It's going to be a procedural Earth, which means it's going to be truly open world with no boundaries at a scale never attempted before, or so they say. A massively varied and dense planet filled with immersive biomes, unique enemies, and valuable resource resources to discover. It's going to be a fantasy Earth, as Light No Fire presents you with an ancient Earth to uncover, one where you're not the hero, thick with lore, mystery, and a constant fight for survival, inspired by the adventure, charm, and imagination that we love from classic fantasy. And finally, it's an unexplored Earth. Every mountain can be climbed, and below them lie endless vistas, oceans, and continents perhaps no others have seen. You'll set sail across vast oceans and rivers, ride wild beasts through fantastical landscapes, and fly dragons over undiscovered continents.
Oh, and by the way, friendly reminder, Father's Day is right around the corner now, and if you're anything like me, you probably haven't got around to buying him anything just yet. And I know coming up with the right gift idea is the hardest part, hands down, so I've got you covered. Holzkern makes watches, sunglasses, and jewelry out of natural materials like wood and stone, and thanks to their grains, each one is a one-of-a-kind piece unlike anyone else's. Personally, I love the wood-infused pieces, like this gunmetal gray piece with a dark wood inlay. Without fail, people always want to know more about it whenever I wear it out. And if you order by June 9th, you'll have your gift delivered by Father's Day. Best of all, you can get 15% off if you use my code LUCKYGHOST. With over 1 million happy customers and counting, Holzkern makes extraordinary watches with extraordinary quality. But just in case something goes wrong, they also offer a 24-month warranty on all of their products. With over 1,000 designs on their online store, you're guaranteed to find something that you love. Shout out to Holzkern for sponsoring this segment, and thank you for listening. Use my link in the description or my QR code on screen to get your father a perfect Father's Day gift, or maybe just get one for yourself. And be sure to use code LUCKYGHOST for 15% off.
Next up, we have Once Human by Starry Studio. This one's coming to PC. Its exact release date isn't confirmed yet, but they're planning for mid to late 2024. Once Human is a multiplayer open world survival game set in a strange post-apocalyptic future. You'll unite with friends to fight monstrous enemies, uncover secret plots, compete for resources, and build your own territory. Once you were merely a human, now you have the power to remake the world. This is an MMO looter shooter that is looking to be better than anyone anticipated. It looks a bit like a combination of Defiance meets Secret World. While you roam the world in search of levels and loot, you'll encounter giant bosses, events, dungeons, and monoliths. The game even features PvP. Certain areas on the map will become contested, allowing players to compete for their rewards. It even has base building and all the typical mechanics that come with that, like crafting and blueprints and more. A common theme in this game is that you'll encounter creatures who have had their heads replaced with various inanimate objects. This game has peaked as the #2 most wishlisted game on Steam, which is pretty impressive given just how out of the ordinary it is. Once Human is going to feature seasons and fresh starts, and it sounds like every season will have a new mechanic added to the game to keep it fresh. So it sounds a lot like they're going to be doing something similar to modern ARPGs, with seasons at the forefront of their design. I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on this one. Next up, we have STALKER 2, Heart of Chernobyl. This one's coming out on September 5th, 2024. Developed by GSC Game World, it's coming to PC and Xbox, and is planned to be on the Xbox Game Pass at launch. Built in Unreal Engine 5 and featuring a massive, horrifying world, STALKER 2, Heart of Chernobyl is an upcoming first-person shooter survival horror video game. This is another game that looks like it could have easily been a generic, forgettable FPS, but avoided all of that by diving deep into a fascinating and terrifying sci-fi direction. This is looking to be one of the more promising open-world games coming out here, and definitely one that will keep you awake while you play it. Despite the 2 in the name, this is actually the 4th entry into the franchise, so the franchise has its feet under itself now, and it's starting to get its stride. The previous entry sold over 4 million copies, allowing the developer to greatly expand their vision and make STALKER 2 the massive game that they'd always wanted it to be. STALKER 2, Heart of Chernobyl will be a single-player game at launch, with multiplayer modes planned for soon after release as a free update for the game. This game will offer one-of-a-kind gameplay featuring the elements of first-person shooter, an immersive sim, and horror. In this game, you'll play a major part in a non-linear story that unfolds in the setting of local, post-apocalyptic dark science fiction. Your duty is to decide the fate of the zone. If all of this sounds cool, keep an eye out for it releasing September 5th of this year. Next up, we have AVOWED. This game is scheduled to be released in the second half of 2024 for Windows and Xbox. AVOWED looks like it's going to be one of the most interesting and promising open world games of 2024, and might be your best chance at scratching that Elder Scrolls itch until Bethesda's next title comes out. And since it's built in Unreal Engine 5, this game stands to look gorgeous. AVOWED is an upcoming action role-playing video game developed by Obsidian Entertainment and published by Xbox Game Studios. AVOWED takes place in the same universe as Pillars of Eternity in the world of Eora. AVOWED is a first-person fantasy action RPG from the award-winning team at Obsidian Entertainment, and you'll probably recognize that name as the developer behind Fallout New Vegas, The Outer Worlds, or or even grounded. In Avowed, you are the envoy of Adir, a distant land, sent to investigate rumors of a spreading plague throughout the Living Lands, which is an island full of mysteries and secrets, danger and adventure, and choices and consequences and untamed wilderness. You discover a personal connection to the Living Lands and an ancient secret that threatens to destroy everything. Can you save this unknown frontier and your soul from the forces threatening to tear them asunder? Avowed's combat will mix and match swords and spells, guns, bows, and shields, and allow you to dig into the grimoire for spells to trap, freeze, or burn your enemies. You'll also be able to recruit companions from a spread of species that will fight alongside you, each with their own unique set of abilities. From a former mercenary to an eccentric wizard, they will be part of your journey, with your choices shaping them as you help them with their quests. I'm really excited for it, and I'm definitely hoping for big things from this one. Next up, we have Where the Winds Meet, developed by Everstone Studios and NetEase. This one's coming to PC with no exact release date yet, but slated for 2024. In Where the Winds Meet, you'll embark on an unforgettable journey in an open-world action-adventure RPG set in ancient China's tumultuous 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms era. Explore a land ravaged by war and territorial disputes, where political intrigue, power struggles, and epic battles shape the course of history. Amidst the chaos, you'll discover a world brimming with cultural richness and prosperity, where heroes rise and legends are born. This game will feature a non-linear story and a beautiful open world with intense combat. There will be mounts, and you'll be able to engage in mounted combat, like firing a bow from your horse. The footage we've seen of the game so far reminds me a bit of a toned-down Sekiro, similar to, but not quite as punishing. All in all, the game looks gorgeous, and it looks like it gives you quite a bit of freedom to go where you want, when you want, and do what you want. And in one clip, I saw the character fly, so I'm not sure if that's something that we can do anytime we want, or how much distance we'll be able to cover with it, but it definitely looked interesting. I'll definitely be keeping my eyes on Where the Winds Meet later in 2024. Next up, we have Ark 2, developed by Studio Wildcard and coming to PC and Xbox. This one's initially scheduled for 2022, but now planned for the end of 2024, and it's yet another game that is right around the corner. However, I would take that release date with a grain of salt, as hitting their deadlines isn't exactly something Studio Wildcard is known for. Vin Diesel will play the protagonist, Santiago, who was ejected from an exploding spaceship onto an alien planet that Ark 2 takes place on. Ark 2 is planned to feature substantial changes from its predecessor. For example, they plan to feature Souls-like melee combat, where you can target, lock on, block, dodge, combo, or stagger your enemy. Apparently, Ark 2 will also have a heavier focus on primitive-only weaponry, and is changing from first-person to a strict third-person view for character traversal systems such as sliding, swinging, free climbing, mantling, parkour, and more. Ark 2 is set in a massive new alien environment with dynamic world events. You'll be able to craft weapons and tools with tons of combinations between the appearance and their function. Ark 2 is going to fully support the modding scene, as the developers have determined that some of the best content from Ark 1 was actually created by the community. Ark 2 is planned for PC and Xbox and is slated for Game Pass, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it head to PlayStation after a short exclusivity with Xbox. We have seen very little of this game outside of trailers, so there are still a lot of unknowns for a game that's scheduled to release in less than a year. I hope they hit their release date of 2024, but due to how little we know, I'm not totally optimistic that this will happen. Still, when it does come out, it looks like it's going to be a really cool game. It's got a lot of really cool ideas behind it, and I'm definitely going to be checking this one out. Next up, we have a game that needs no introduction, and that's going to be Elden Ring and its DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, which is scheduled to release on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation on June 21st of this year. Shadow of the Erdtree will take place in the same place and same time period as Elden Ring. There will be a brand new map added called The Lands Between, and to access this, you'll have to reach the arena of Mohg, Lord of the Blood, and defeat him, and touch the withered arm in the cocoon of Mohg's throne to transport yourself into this new Land of the Shadow. In order to reach the DLC zone, you'll have to defeat Radon, which is mid-game boss, and Mohg, which is a late-game boss, so this DLC is going to be tucked behind quite a bit of base game content. If you've been looking for an excuse to play through Elden Ring again, now you've got one. You've got quite a bit to do to get yourself ready for this DLC's drop. The DLC is said to be larger than Limgrave, for those familiar with the Elden Ring map, and this new region is going to be denser and more seamless than previous regions. And yes, there will be a poisonous swamp featured somewhere in this new land. Miyazaki really can't help himself. The new DLC will feature over 10 new bosses, some of which will be optional. It will also feature loads of new weapon categories and a lot more. I'm expecting this to be another masterpiece from the FromSoft team, and I can't wait to dive into this one. If you love the FromSoft formula, there's no way you're going to want to miss out on this one. Next up, we have Star Wars Outlaws. Developed by Ubisoft for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, this one has a release date of August 27th, 2024. Star Wars Outlaws is an upcoming action-adventure game set in the Star Wars universe, developed by Massive Entertainment and published by Ubisoft under license by Lucasfilm Games. The game takes place during the period between The Empire Strikes Back and The Return of the Jedi. This is another promising-looking game, although that promise is being overshadowed by some of the decisions Ubisoft has made when it comes to monetizing the game. Those unfortunate facts aside, this game is going to be an open-world action shooter in the Star Wars universe, created by a AAA studio. So there's a lot of potential for something amazing to happen here. The description of this game reads, "Experience the first ever open-world Star Wars game and explore distinct planets across the galaxy, both iconic and new. Risk it all as K-Vess, an emerging scoundrel seeking freedom and the means to start a new life. Fight, steal, and outwit your way through the galaxy's crime syndicates as you join the galaxy's most wanted. Explore distinct locations with bustling cities and cantinas before racing across sprawling outdoor landscapes on your speeder. Each location in this game is going to bring new adventures, unique challenges, and enticing rewards if you're willing to take the risks. In Star Wars Outlaws, you'll pilot your ship, the Trailblazer, as you engage in thrilling dogfights with the Empire and other foes. Find the right opportunities to chase, evade, and attack, and get the upper hand." Next up, we have Death Stranding 2, developed by Kojima Productions. This one's coming to PlayStation 5. This one is unfortunately going to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. In Death Stranding 2, Sam, with companions by his side, sets out on a new journey to save humanity from extinction. A couple of months ago, we got a nearly 10-minute trailer for this game, which gave us a lot of insight into the story and the world that the game is going to take place in. This game is going to be a continuation of the story from Death Stranding 1. So if you haven't beat Death Stranding 1 yet, now's the perfect time to do so before Death Stranding 2 comes out. With your entourage from Death Stranding 1 scattered, you form a new one with a group known as Drawbridge. If you haven't played a Death Stranding game before, they are very story driven. It's almost as if you're playing an interactive movie. And so if you're someone who enjoys a story driven open world experience, you'll probably love Death Stranding 2. It comes from the brilliant mind of Hideo Kojima, so you know it's going to be a mind bender. Next up, we have Black Myth: Wukong, developed by Game Science, and this one's coming to PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, and it's got a release date of August 20th, 2024. Black Myth: Wukong is an upcoming action role-playing game based on the classical 16th century Chinese novel Journey to the West. You set out as the destined one to venture into the challenges and marvels ahead to uncover the obscured truth beneath the veil of a glorious legend from the past. This open world game gives off God of War and Dark Souls vibes. The world looks gorgeous and massive. The combat looks very methodical and decisive, which I appreciate. I get bored really fast when games get too close to button mashing territory. In this game, you'll rest at little shrines and offer incense, which again looks a lot like a bonfire from Dark Souls. It also has quirky characters that you can complete quests for, a lot like Dark Souls games do. So as far as I can tell, this is a much more light-hearted take on a Souls-like game rooted in Chinese mythology. This open world game looks like it's going to be a great new addition to the Souls-like genre for the Souls-like players out there. Next up, we have Monster Hunter Wilds, developed by Capcom for the PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. The release date is still unannounced. This game looks like it's going to be everything everyone has come to love about the Monster Hunter franchise. The world looks massive and bigger than ever before. You've got mounts that can run, and you've even got mounts that can glide, possibly even fly. This game will be the beginning of the 6th generation of the franchise, which means it's likely to feature some solid evolution from the previous entry. This game looks like it's going to feature much higher monster density than previous entries have had, and it looks like enemies are going to interact with the weather somehow. Overall, they haven't told us a lot about this game, but we were able to glean all of this information from the trailer. This is being built on Capcom's RE engine, and it's going to be taking advantage of the enhancements to the engine provided by Dragon's Dogma 2. The question is, what will that mean for Monster Hunter Wilds performance? Time will tell. The previous entry, Monster Hunter World, was Capcom's most successful game ever, so you can bet that Capcom is going to go big with Monster Hunter Wilds. This is easily one of my most anticipated games on this list, and I'll definitely be diving in when it drops. Next up, we have Last Sentinel Tokyo, developed by Lightspeed for PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and the release date is still to be announced. This one has been in development for over 4 years and is headed up by former Rockstar veteran Steve Martin. This game is set decades from now in a dystopian, reconstructed Tokyo. You play as Hiromi Shota. Last Sentinel is a narrative-focused, open-world action game. We don't know a whole lot else about it yet, but given the experience of the people working on it, it's sounding like it's one that's worth keeping an eye on. Next up, we have Honor of Kings World. This one is being developed by Tencent for PC, and the release date is still to be announced. I'm throwing this one in here to keep an eye on. So far, Honor of Kings World has released a 6-minute trailer that looks pretty impressive. The game looks gorgeous. Some parts of this look heavily inspired by Genshin Impact, which was heavily inspired by Zelda Breath of the Wild. Right now it's looking a lot more like Genshin than it looks like Zelda though. Regardless, the game looks gorgeous, but we don't really know a whole lot else about it yet, so we'll just be keeping an eye on it in the meantime. Next up, we have Towers of AGHASBA, developed by Dreamlit Inc. for PC and PlayStation. The release date for this one is still to be determined. This game is being described as a casual adventure role-playing game. Towers of AGHASBA is an open world experience where players can build vast settlements and grow sprawling ecosystems on their fantasy island. Players must balance between constructing bustling villages for their growing tribe and nurturing the exotic ecosystems of otherworldly plant life. Express your creativity by developing your island however you'd like, explore the whimsical land of AGHASBA, and connect with friends to show off your unique world. It looks like you'll be able to explore, gather, and even build settlements in a relaxing and beautiful world. It also looks like this is going to have a very indie feel, more about exploration than combat, and if this one comes in at the right price and with the right amount of polish, I think it could be a pretty popular game when it comes out. Next up, we have Digested, developed by Carol and expected to release in Q3 of 2024. The exact release date has not been announced yet though, so we'll see. Digested is a body cam horror survival game in which you must evade a giant snake intending on eating you alive. Utilize various tools and abilities to formulate an escape strategy and use the map to navigate through unfamiliar terrain. Locate your extraction pod and don't get digested on the way. I had to include this one because it just looks so unique. Contrary to many of the other games on this list, this isn't going to be a massive game, but it will be short and replayable. As you uncover your navigation points, you'll gather various power-ups, each offering a temporary advantage vital for outsmarting the serpent that stalks you. Moreover, each playthrough offers an entirely new experience. Starting locations, navigation points, power-ups, and even the extraction pod location are randomized every time you play. Your strategy must adapt with each new game, challenging you to think on your feet, take calculated risks, and maintain focus. Again, if this one comes in at the right price point, it could be a fun one to dive into. And I just thought it was hilarious that they described the game as being eaten alive by a giant snake. If this all sounds interesting, keep an eye on Digested. Next up, we have Dune Awakening, developed by Funcom for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. We don't have a release date yet, but it looks like we'll be able to get into early access of some sort and play the game here in 2024. Dune Awakening definitely leans into survival elements, but the developers have said they wanted this to be a blend of MMO and survival. So it's going to have long-form progression inside of a massive sandbox open world. All in all, Dune Awakening is looking incredibly ambitious. It's building on decades of experience in both the MMO and survival genres that the studio has. It's going to have giant sandworms as a tension mechanic, meaning that you can't kill them. When they come, you have to run. And notice that I said when and not if. The worms will absolutely come. You can use your thumpers to bait them away from you or perhaps to bait them into your enemies. The game sounds like it will have a safe zone where you and your base are fairly safe, and this will allow for your long-form progression and your long-form base building. And then outside of the safe zone, you'll have the desert, where storms and shifting sands will come and completely change the landscape on a weekly basis, basically acting as a reset for the server every week, thereby giving you permanent progression and temporary progression so that you always have something to do. It's out there that you'll build your forward operating bases and seek out the most valuable resources to take back to your main base. It's also out there where you're likely to kill or be killed by other players hunting down those same resources. The game should be a lot of fun. It's got a really cool universe with great lore. It looks gorgeous. It's being developed by a great studio, and it sounds like it has some really cool and innovative systems in place, so count me in. Next up, we have War of the Worlds, developed by Flipswitch Games for PC. Release date is still to be announced. This is another really cool indie one that I wanted to throw in here and shed some light on. War of the Worlds is a hardcore horror survival game that throws you into the extermination of mankind. Survive a week in an open world while avoiding giant alien machines that will exterminate you on sight. Avoid demise from dehydration or starving by scavenging and looting for food, resources, and other tools to aid your survival in an alien invasion apocalypse. You can watch the military's measly attempts to fight back and even commandeer military vehicles to fight back yourself. The extraterrestrials are not the only threat. Other humans may try to steal your resources, your vehicle, or your life. Multiplayer delivers a unique experience, allowing you to pick a side, either the humans or the aliens. As the aliens, your goal is to exterminate all humans, harvest their blood, and fertilize the earth with it. As humans, your goal is to be the last man or group standing and outlive the aliens long enough to fight back and find a way to bring them down. This looks like an interesting little indie project. It's another one that if it comes out at the right price with the right level of polish, we could see another indie hit on our hands. Next up, we have Marvel's Wolverine. This one's going to be a PS5 exclusive, and it doesn't currently have a release date just yet. Marvel's Wolverine is an upcoming video game developed by Insomniac Games and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, and is of course being based on the Marvel comic character Wolverine. In this game, you'll play as a version of Wolverine that feels very detective-like in nature. We saw gameplay of him analyzing objects and talking to himself as he sorts out what's going on in a tone that felt almost LA Noire to me. The gameplay that we've seen so far reminded me a lot of Spider-Man games, which is a good thing, so hopefully it's received as well as those have been. I can't show any of that gameplay because upon looking at it a second time, I think it was all leaked footage that wasn't supposed to be out there, so I also most likely won't be able to include it in this video because I don't want to be DMCA'd. But it's out there on the internet if you're curious and you want to go find it yourself. And don't forget to check out the stunning watches on Holes Curtain. You can use my link down in the description below and use code LUCKYGHOST to get 15% off. And there you have it. I think that was a list of 21 absolutely amazing open world games that we have to look forward to that are releasing within the next year, or at least they're planning to, you know, but that can always change. So let me know down in the comments below, which one are you most excited for, or is there a game that I missed that should have been on this list that I forgot? Thanks so much for watching, and a massive shout out to my YouTube channel members. If you want to become a channel member, be sure to click the join button below or click the link in the description to get perks like having your name appear at the end of every video or having access to a private Discord channel. If you're not sure what to do next, check out one of these videos popping up on screen right now. I promise it's worth watching. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you in the next video.